Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Secrets of Behind the Red Doors. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, my partner, my friend Kevin, can't make it today. He got some personal things he has to take care of. I hope everything works out, but he'll be back. Everybody say, if have positive thoughts for Kevin. He's a good friend. And also about the old man Tony, he's going to come on into the show. He's up in New York. He's 94. You guys are going to love him. The stories are great. I got a few questions about it. First of all, thank you guys for subscribing. I really appreciate it. It helps a lot with making more of these shows. I told you guys, I'm going to tell you the truth, no fabrications, and we're going to stick to them years in the Bergen. I mean, guys I respected, just for who they are, nothing else. Not for how they lived, just interactions. You want to hear stories about them, the truth about them, the real parts, come to me. You want to, if you're going to ask me questions about this, that, I'm not only going to answer or respond to you on questions I interacted with. I'm not going to make up stories. And I don't think you should be told made up stories or guys who are self-indulgent, just want to, I'm this, I'm this. We don't do that. Kevin doesn't do it. Nobody on my show is going to do that. We just, this project that I took on, I wrote this a while ago. It was it meant a lot to me. After seeing all them guys on the airwaves, I don't care what network, what platform, telling these stories and just grabbing them out of thin air, it doesn't make any sense. And I think you, the people, should know more of the details of who these people are and not keep on hearing the same retreads over and over and then adding in that how powerful, how smart, how tough they were. Let's be honest, John wasn't only an icon, he left an indelible mark on a lot of people. Talking about being an underdog guy, a lot of his family, his friends, a lot of guys like that were all the same. You know, um, betting horses, betting sports, eating out. It wasn't, you can't come, you can't go. Whoever was around, come on, let's go eat. A lot of guys will tell you, I met a lot of street guys back then. Some of them were the most surly, no personality. It's almost like they hated themselves or they hated somebody in their life, and it just emanated from them. So, like, you talk about guys asking me about the movies, about John. Listen, I was around them every day. Do I care about them movies? No, because if you see the real guy and you match them together, they're not the same. I mean, Amon Asante was a great actor, but it was just too staccato, too angly for me. John wasn't like that. It was more of that, his smile talked. He was an intelligent guy. I mean, let's be honest. Wasn't intelligent enough to stop gambling, but that's another story. But hey, everybody has a vice. His vice was sports and horses, especially horses. But, and I told that story about him. I think he enjoyed telling everybody how much he lost. Think about it. There's some people they don't celebrate. They're celebrating the wins. I hit 3 teams yesterday, hit a parlay, or I caught a long shot. It's almost like John enjoyed telling you how much he lost. And the funny part about that's part of his personality. And then you got bear it down. You have, you have Gene, Pete. They bet, but different levels. But and they never complained about their losses. The only, Angelo was, not a, frequent bettor like John and Gina. But you knew when he lost, and you knew when he won. And other guys. I mean, I got to tell you about a couple of guys that used to come by the Bergen a lot. I always told you to do this. 2 guys from New Jersey, Zeke and Funzy. They were friends of John for a long time. These guys were just fun. For young guys like us, you meet at the track, give you a couple hundred, go bet horses, or hang out and talk to you. There wasn't that level of, they treated everybody on an even keel. I know there was a lot of respect for John, the people around him. And, when they came around, it was nice to see them. Because it wasn't like, even if they were in a bad mood, you never saw it. They kept that privately. These are stalwarts on the streets. like didn't care what they did. You just for the meeting or the half hour, or when I went by Arnold's house for Sunday dinner, it was just genuine fun. And I want people to realize that you listen to them guys all day long about this, going to a meeting, this guy. That was whatever that was. That time of day was not did all encompassing. I mean, these guys had lives. And another thing, why I did this show, and Kevin will back me up because he thought it was, he had a big issue with it too, and a few of my friends did too that I know. In that life, John always says, you don't want this life, take a walk. And we respect you for that. It's always being honorable about what you do, and if you choose this life, remember there's consequences. There's no other design about it. There's consequences, and there's many consequences. And he was always forthright. I remember one time in the car, Angelo was in the car, and take a ride with me. He had to go to the city. He had to go meet somebody. He says, I want you to come with me. I'll park the car, come inside with me. I don't want to go, He says, so I come with him. But we're in the car driving, and Angel says to me, he goes, Marco, he says, I like you, a smart guy, he says, you got a problem, he says. I said, what's my problem? He says, I know I got problems. What's my problem? I'm laughing at him. And he says, you're too loyal. You got blind loyalty. And in this life, blind loyalty can be good, but also can hurt you. It makes you less aware of what's around you. So, if you didn't want this life, I could understand that because, guys like you, loyal guys, you're not going to meet nice, loyal guys all the time. And, guys would throw money at you, wave that, that carrot on a stick in front of you. Yeah. And I took that to heart because it meant like, he was being sincere with me. And that's a difference. No matter how wild and crazy and out of sorts some of these guys were at times, they did have that sense of understanding, not everybody was a street guy, and then you have, and the funny thing is they always told me, and John was the same way, listen, you're around here, you go out, you conduct yourself like a gentleman, you go out to restaurants, clubs, somebody gets in your face, you deal with it. Never mention where you're from, who you hang around, or you never say that. It's against the rules. But I'll tell you, there was a lot of guys that threw names out left and right. And it was kind of hilarious. I mean, you want to hang out and you want to get in a confrontation or an argument with somebody, and you right away, as soon as you're back against the wall, I'm this, I'm that, I know this, I hang around this. John had one thing, you crack them. The guy says that to you and mentions a name or something like that, just crack them, and I'll deal with it afterwards because you're 100% right. That was his structure in that. He believed in that, but remember, in that life, there's a lot of guys who, playing a part, what I call wannabes. And some of them wannabes even went farther than they should have. But that's not my, not my judgment. They made that judgment. That's up to them. I left in the early 90s. I come around once in a while. When John went away, you guys asked the question, I left on my own accord. It was important to me. I had a young son. I wanted to raise him, didn't want to abandon him. I took into account what John and Angelo was always stuck in my head. These were family guys. Angelo and John were close to their kids, close to their family. Angelo was home every night. John, his kids were everything to him. You gotta understand that. So, these guys sacrificed a lot to try to help their family when they had no other options that I can see. But I'm just telling you the way they were raised. But, so you have to admire that. Guys who take that supposed oath, whatever it is, and follow that life, the guys that flip, you think about it. I told you that story. I mentioned it last time. If they lie to their friends and their family, why are you, they could be lying to you, making up stories to make themselves look good. Now, I don't know why they did it. They can give you all the excuses in the world. I don't care. They're not going to get any mention here. But it bothers me when they try to justify other people that they were better than them, but the other people stood by a program and had a journey and stuck to it. So you guys want to go there and support them, It's up to you. I don't know what you want to do. But I'm telling you, this podcast, you keep on the Red Doors in that era, them 12, 14 years, you're going to get a true insider of, like a story I told you about the Shell Bank. I could tell you food stories from the cows come home. I could tell you gambling stories. You're going to want to hear interactions in the club. You know, when John playing poker with a bunch of regular people. Or when John wanted to talk to you about anything, you know, guys tell me, John had talked to you about the life. He talked to me about the life, but these guys weren't dumb. They talking about the life in generalities and about, you know, and I was a guy, I consider myself intelligent. I'd ask the questions of in a broad spectrum about that life. And John would say, okay, here comes another question. Oh, there was another story. There was a guy who came around the club a lot. Fat Andy was away at the time, and Tony Lee, they were partners. Tony Lee was aces. Tony Guerrero was a gentleman, admired him. Johnny liked him a lot. Tony was just this way of doing things, very calm and controlled. Andy was the opposite, you know, of him. Andy was more rambunctious and overly aggressive. So I guess they made a nice pair. But two legends to me, you know, in that life. But so Tony was a sweetheart. Whenever you saw Tony, if I saw him by his club, or I went to Mike's Tavern when he was sick, he had stomach cancer, I felt so bad for him, went through a lot. Come over, I'm making a mess. He would cook, we'd hang out and talk. And he'd talk about his crazy brother, Mikey Gal, and, you know, and then so Tony used to come by to see John a lot, and it was at night, and they have a couple cocktails. And I remember Tony at the time, his stomach was bothering him. He was drinking scotch with a little milk to coat his stomach. I mean, I've never seen that before. But so he'd come by Richie's club, our friend social club, and hang out with John. So we're hanging out. Everybody's drinking. They ordered food. I forgot. It could have been a Friday night. I don't know what night. And just shooting off conversation. Nothing, you know, John and Tony talking about just, I would say, banal situations that they had because there was too many guys around. They didn't discuss that life in front of everybody. So all of a sudden they're having a bet. So they're talking about, I never forget this as long as I live, about the length of the planet Earth. Now, John, who was a really smart guy, but he misread an article, and so what happened was so he says, John was saying the Earth is only like 400 million years old. I saw an article that the scientists are claiming it. So Tony's saying, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's older than that. It's billions. Nah, I think you got it wrong, Tony. So now they're having this little friendly tit-a-tat, and John says, ask Mark. Guy reads a lot of books. He's very smart. Yeah, Tony, Mark, tell us the truth. He says, listen, you want my honest opinion? From what I learned in school, the Earth is like 3 to 4 billion years old. Johnny says, you're wrong. And I'm looking, I'm laughing. I says, it's only like 400, 500 million years old. And I says, no, I think that was some kind of study that you read. That he goes, so it says, you could prove to me it's 400 years old? Yes, I could bring an almanac or a book tomorrow. So make him a bet, Tony. So Tony's edging on, make John a bet. Make him a bet. So I ain't making no bet. I'll tell you what. Johnny says, if you're right, says, I'll buy you a suit from Richfield's. Now, Richfield's was in Kings Plaza. Everybody had great suits. I said, you got a deal. I says, nah. So next day, they come around. I'm sitting there with this book in front of me, this almanac. And Johnny says, yeah, I know. You want to tell me I'm wrong, right? I said, no, I'm not happy I'm telling you wrong. But I saw that I got a copy of the article you read that some guys are estimating that the Earth is 500 million years old. I said, yeah, but that was based on what they were reading with the animal life and all that stuff. That's not to do with the structure of the Earth and the core of the Earth. He says, all right. He says, Tony's coming in today. I know he's going to ask you, what are you going to tell him? I said, what do you want me to tell him, John? Do you want me to lie to him and say you're right? Because you know you're not going to look good if you do it. He says, what are you, a wise ass? He says, of course not. Show him the book, show him the article, see what he says. So Tony comes walking in later that day, hanging out. Oh, Marco, he says, you got the result? Let me see that book. It says the Earth is estimated between 3 and 4 billion years old. And Johnny just tilts his head, with that look. And I go, see, the kid's right. You're wrong. You owe him a suit from Richfield's. And Johnny says, yeah, I'll get you a suit from Richfield. He says, don't worry about it. He says, I didn't care about the suits in Richfield. I didn't want to make him wrong, but, I didn't want to embarrass him. So but Tony, I also got the article John had about the 500 million years old that could have confused him. So Johnny goes, see? So I wasn't all wrong. I just was misread. And after, so that night, when Johnny's leaving, I got to go home. I think it was a Saturday. Saturday night, he went home, have dinner with his family, with his wife and everything. So he goes to his pocket, he pulls out like 300 here. Go buy yourself a pair of shoes or something, or a couple of pairs of pants. He says, on me. He says, thanks for that, he says. But, so that's the kind of conversations. But Johnny Johnny was very protective of his knowledge, very smart guy. But like everything else, not everybody knows everything, But so so I want you to hear these stories because of two factors too. I don't seen all the movies. I won't watch the movies. When you spend as much time around John in a daily life, or see him in private, or talk to him private, the movies can't pay him no justice. I'm not going to talk about the movies. I don't want to, because it's just, I didn't see them. I didn't see any of them. People told me you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. So, sometimes I wonder when guys out there talking are so lacking in their own prestige in life that they got to live around the person that they wronged, no matter who it is. I'm not talking about John, anybody. Sometimes I wonder that, if, John always said, I never pretended to be anybody else. His brother Gene, Angelo, they went out. Angelo died young, Gene spent so many years in prison, These are guys. Look at Pete. Pete was a sanitation man on disability. They died in prison. You have to respect these people just for their mentality and their strength. Nothing else. There was other guys. His story about, I read a story about Arnold and Funzy when they were going to trial, and Funzy was sick, and Arnold asked the judge to give him Funzy's time. He'll take it because his brother's, called him like his brother's sick. And when you hear stuff like that, people sat there with tears in their eyes. A guy who loved this man so much, no matter what, and asked the judge, give me the charges, let him go home. There's that honor. Where's that honor? You guys want to ask me these, you have the right, you inquire about questions. I'm being honest to you. I got no bone to pick. I don't want to disrespect anybody. And back then, it was a different world. I don't want to talk about what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Some of these guys I mentioned, like you guys want to know names at that shell bank then. It was Joey Scopo, Pete Gotti, Jackie Cavallo. I think it was Tommy Sneakers. Yeah, I haven't seen, the only guys alive is Tommy, but I haven't seen him in decades, It has nothing to do with anything, but it was just an era. I mean, the streets. There was a lot of broke guys, a lot of guys making money. First of all, even when I made money, you were tainted by the gambling and the life, going out to clubs, going out to dinner. You thought this would never end, so you just enjoyed yourself. Went shopping, whatever, bought a new sport jacket or whatever. I remember the time, Bobby Borriello, a character and a half. I mean, a character and a half. We were sitting outside. We had opened up a horse room on President Street, and John put me there to run it and a small partner, and he put Bobby, Pete, and Iggy as partners, something to earn money and build a horse room. So they put up money, they put up a bank, a satellite dish. Bobby had a club on President Street, and Bobby had an Akita, big Japanese dog, nasty, but I think the dog's name was Bonsai. I remember him. Wild dog. So we'd sit outside, have a coffee one morning outside the club before the horse room opened, and with the Akita laying between us, and just talking. And Bobby, Bobby was around that area for years. Bobby was a tough guy. Bobby was also a degenerate gambler. Bobby was also funny as hell. And if you knew Bobby, you'll never forget Bobby. That's what bothers me, the way he died. I admire the person he was. He was Bobby, but and people were moving into that neighborhood from the city because of brownstones on President Street, Sackett, Hicks. There were some beautiful brownstones, and they were cheaper than the ones in Manhattan. So a lot of what I call yuppies back then, they were yuppies, were buying up these brownstones that these old Italian people bought for $100,000. They were selling for $3 million, But so they would come by the neighborhood and they would stop by, say hello, you guys, and say, we love living here. You guys keep it safe. And I keep on, and I said, said, Bobby, that's all I hear in Ozone Park on First Avenue. We keep it safe. People are happy. People don't, they never question. They knew by thought what they did, but they kept the neighborhoods kind of safe. Now you go through New York or other neighborhoods in major cities, a mess. You think if 101st Avenue or these homeless people or whatever, or bums or junkies walking around begging money or robbing, breaking car windows, that would have happened if John was around? Ask anybody who lived in a neighborhood. Go to any neighborhood where anybody was. Go to Canarsie. Go to Bensonhurst. Go to Arthur Avenue, the Bronx, or go to Country Club. Go to different places where you knew guys at social clubs, Lower East Side. It was kind of like safe zones. Now, I'm not judging that, they should bring them back. What I'm saying is, and that's why a lot of the things they did back then were kind of shunned aside, unless there were major crimes and destruction. It's different. But, everybody, there was cops who bet sports, who bet horses. There was politicians who bet. It was kind of like a misnomer, no big deal. Now these days they got OTB, they got all the sports books, FanDuel, DraftKings, and everybody bets legitimate. Yeah. So what they did was they took the idea from these guys and took it behind themselves and made it a $1 billion industry too. So you have your choice now. The difference is you bet with these guys. There's still bookies, I guess, but not the same structure or size. But guys want to bet in private, and that's the way it is. So that's as with gamblers. John, you never saw him make a bet. There was an apartment upstairs from the club. And in the front room, the living room, there was a little table with a black, old black phone, dial phone back then. There was no buttons. It started to come, a dial phone. Then it was a push button phone, like a hotel phone, standard phone. And there was a pad and pen on there. And John would come downstairs and say to me, Mark, here. She says, call up Philly, call up Dom, put these bets in. And I look at the bets, and there's like 8 games, football games, all different teams, 10 dimes, 5 dimes, whatever it was, 5,000, 10,000. This guy's, it's hilarious. It's kind of hilarious. And you know what? And bring it back to me. Don't tell anybody I bet. So you couldn't tell anybody you bet. You didn't. So I'd put these bets in for him. And at the next day, he'd come around, I bet 8 games. And then he'd tell everybody, that damn New England or that damn Buffalo. He'd tell everybody he wanted to tell everybody who he bet when they lost. That was the funny part about his character. I don't think he really gave a shit. I think it was part of his edge, part of what he liked. So, so if you seen John, even Kevin, when he came around a lot, Kevin was from Brooklyn, but he also grew up in Ozone Park too. You saw a guy every day. You picked up nuances and his character from Angelo, Gene, John, Pete, Joey Scopo. All great guys. Respect them, and good family men too. That was the best part, but they had an attraction to them. You could sit and talk to them. I mean, I told you a story when I first started going there. They saw I could handle myself, and actually I wasn't afraid of anybody. Why should you be? I don't give a shit. Life is life. But, and they peaked on it. So, there was times, we sent to go grab a guy that owed money, or a guy pay a football bet, or a guy hurt somebody's sister or daughter. He got smacked around. We smacked around. Listen, there was numerous times where, guy's daughter got abused, these guys were fierce about that. You didn't respect women. I could bet it was like that with every neighborhood. Every bunch of guys had something like that. But I can't talk about them. I can talk about how I respect some of them and how I met them or had conversations with them just briefly. Always gentlemen, nice guys, and I do. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. Doesn't play into this. This is about the Bergen Hunt Fish Club, and it's about them powerful years from the 80s to early 90s. I left. John went away, got convicted. Angelo died. Jeannie went away. Knigs went away. It was decimated that way. And all my original guys, and I was, that's me. I was headstrong. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I saw it wasn't going to be right for me there. I didn't want, guys I admire are gone. no disrespect to Pete or anybody. The guys I really admire were gone. So, I just thought, what, time for me I had a young boy, got married. I said, you know what, let me do the right thing. So let's stick to that story. You guys want to know. You want to know stories about John at a racetrack? How about at the crap game? Yeah, I told you a couple stories of crap game. One thing about John loved to gamble, be it the Continental Games. I dealt the Continental Games for years. I made good money. But there was also times when the games got out of hand, John would lose a lot of money. Now, and John sometimes, let's say he lost 30, 40 grand, So now the house, and some guys would won, some guys would break even, some guys would whatever, we cut the game. Sometimes Pete would say to us, listen, guys, I can't pay you tonight because the cut from the house, I'm going to pay my brother's debt. And it wasn't like it was, screw you. Johnny would say, walk off, so make sure you pay them double next week. It was only to pay, so it didn't come, it wasn't like it was diminished. So if we got $200 for the night or $250 for the night, which was a good cut night, you didn't get paid because if they cut $15,000 from the game or $10,000 game, Pete would pay the winners off, you know what I mean? And clear Johnny's debt from that game. And you know what? It was almost like, it was a special thing. Brothers looking out, so the house didn't get a cut, but Johnny say, but there was times Johnny won and we kept the cut and he'd throw something in it. So it all bounced out. But if John lost, you didn't get paid. The tips you kept. If you made tips, that's yours, So sometimes we made 500, 700 in tips. Me, Jimmy Irish, and Jackie, we made some good tips. But but the next week's game, if it was a good week and nobody, there was no big losers and John won a few dollars, and we cut good. It lasted a cut average. Listen, I used to take back then only 2%, 3% because the pots were huge. But, 3% of a $15,000 pot, that's a lot of money. That's $700. That's $450 out of every cut. You do 100 of those. That's $45,000. So it's a lot of money. But you didn't cut like that all the time. Sometimes the games went quick. But Pete was funny. He would sit there all night, sometimes 12, 14 hours. And me, I see guys falling asleep in a chair. Me, I loved it. Only reason was because the longer it went, the more money we made. And I didn't want to go home anyway. I'd sit around guys, Joe Butch Correo, John Gotti, Angelo Vigerio, Willie Boy Johnson, Arnold Quartieri, Joe Messina. There was a list of guys that would play. And you'd hear the conversations during this gambling was legendary. I mean, if I could remember every one, I would tell you, but I will come up with some of them. They were funny, hilarious. I mean, Frankie Chico came every Wednesday night by John. And he got around on Patty Boxcars. If you would have saw Patty Boxcars, it was a funny, talk like that. Came by Frankie Chico, always chain smoking. He had a shirt on. There was stains all over his shirt. And he was a friend of theirs, but he was always this casual, funny old man. And Kevin's going to tell you a story about him when he comes back. You're going to love funny stories, but a good guy, always a gentleman. And he talked with this like raspy voice. But Johnny loved the guy because the guy was a character. Johnny had a lot of characters around there. I mean, there was characters left and right. I mean, one guy, Jimmy Irish, Johnny found in prison. Jimmy Irish used to have a drug problem. Johnny cleaned him up. This is John's personality. Cleaned him up. He served Johnny's purpose in prison, helped him out, got things done for him, whatever, food, laundry, whatever it was. And he promised Jimmy when you go home, told Pete, take care of him, put him to work, make him more money. And he did to the rest of his life. And Jimmy stayed clean. And Jimmy Irish was so loyal to John. Go to the house, take care of the dog, handle this. And Johnny needed a car. Johnny got him a car. Johnny gave him a paycheck. You know what I mean? This is John at his best. You don't see that. I don't want them other, what I call potential frauds or clowns, want to talk bad. Well, he talked too much. He dressed too fancy. You know what? You ain't saying something new. That was him. At least he was being himself. You want to talk about other guys, didn't dress at all, acted nutty, disappeared, hid. That wasn't John. Everybody had a different personality. But he took care of Jimmy. To the day Jimmy died. Jimmy was a gentleman. Jimmy chain smoked himself to death, but he died. I think he lived in his 70s. When I found out he had passed away, I was so sad. I didn't get a chance to go to the wake because Jimmy was one of them. And tough, you send Jimmy in a mix, go take care of it. Jimmy jumped right in. And that was another thing. See, Johnny didn't have guys who used to run away from the fray. He had I wouldn't be surprised, 30, 40 guys. If there was a battle, 30, 40 guys would be battling. It's the truth. Not many guys could say that. Did a lot of them, even for some that didn't want to battle, they would battle just for John. That's the kind of magnetism and effect he had on them. But there was guys, like Jimmy Harris was one guy, Charlie Deke. I remember one day we're sitting in a club and a guy walks in, and it's big, heavy-set guy, just come out of prison. I did a lot of years in prison. His name was Charlie Peters. Never heard of the guy. For a couple times he had cooked in a club. He was a cook in prison, and he came to see John. John staked him, made him cook in the prison. Cook in the club a couple of Wednesdays. It lasted once or twice. That didn't last. But Charlie comes in and he picks up his shirt. He had a big belly. He must have had 30 stab wounds in him from prison. His stomach and his back. This is a guy, when he came out, John says, give him an opportunity, whatever. I don't know what happened after this. He stopped coming around, whatever it was. But the guy had stab wounds from all his years in prison. These are some of the characters. But, they all gravitated for John, for help, for jobs. So them guys who talk bad about him and out there and one day, or the guys who don't talk bad about him but think they know him 100% when they only know him 20%. There's a lot of things, he helped a lot of guys and not for benefits of himself. I'm telling you. There's a story coming up I'm going to tell you about, I'll save it for another show because I think it had something to do with a woman with a son was paralyzed. I got to tell you that story. It's really intense. About first, John Jr. went to help her, and he told his father about it. And John says, no, that's not, do it the right way. Let me go talk to that woman. That woman wrote John a letter thanking him, sent the son, gave her the money to send the son down to, what's that? I think it was Nick Bonacotti's son. I think it was Nick Bonacotti's son that had the paralyzed playing football. They had that center down there in Florida, and John paid for it, put her up. This is John, you don't talk about that. She sent him a letter. He read the letter. He got like embarrassed by it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not going to justify his life. I'm just going to say there's things you should know about that Bergen Hunt Fish Club. Everybody ate. The neighborhood, they loved it. Go get a hero from House of Heroes. Go get liquor by Corona Liquors. Go see Dr. Han, the doctor guy, and he's sick. Go to Nick the Greek in a diner. You know what I mean? Go down to Scumbardi's. Go to the pasta store. This is all a run. Ricciardi, the guy Ricciardi opened up a suit store. Go in there, buy suits. This was the way they were, this is keeping everything in a circle, and Howard Beach. Listen, we walked around, besides just being a little crazy and out of whack sometimes, aggressive guys, but not fearless. There was a bunch of us, but you hang out with Pete, Tommy, and Jackie and go to clubs or bars. They spent money. You can watch TV all you want, guys stiffing tabs or, not paying for this, walking down to restaurants. Not around John. John wouldn't go to, John had that saying. Listen, he walked, I think it was, I don't know if it was Tony Romo's, Joe DeCandia, the old man. Where was, he didn't want to charge him for a big meal. He said, listen, you don't charge me, I'm not coming to this restaurant no more. Business is business. You pay, give me the bill, I pay it. You want to buy everybody a drink for thank you, that's fine. So I'm not coming here for a free bill. John wasn't a freeloader. There's a lot of guys out there freeloaded all over the place. Shook down guys, wise guys with, with power. It's a shame. You should have never done that. It's about being a class act. So, I want to tell my fans, subscribe. You know, I'm almost at 10,000. It's getting there, Bo. You know, this show I'm coming up with, you're all going to be part of it in more ways than I will send out messages. You will get them. You will see little clips of what I'm going to do. I want you to be part of it. And it's to be a long-term thing. You know, I'm subscribers. Go tell your family members, go tell your friends, get my subscriptions up. And I promise you, you'll be a part of this event, never before done on anything, on YouTube or anywhere in this life. And I'm going to show you something. And it's only about telling the truth with respect and doing the right thing. And you're going to be part of it. The next coming weeks, I'm gonna have little shorts. I'm gonna get you some closer. We're honestly about, I would say, 2 months out, but of course I want to do it right. But everybody, all my subscribers, you got an opportunity to be part of it and be part of this ongoing afterwards. You know, I also want you to be part of this new Bergen Hunt Fish Club story. You know, this is something that should be told. And you're going to know everything. You know, you're going to see the parts where guys got smacked around. You know, let's save that. That's part of that, being on the streets. Guys who beat guys for money, guys who hurt family members, guys who abuse strangers. You know what I mean? There's stories I got to tell you that are going to come up. Just, prepare for it. I'm just trying to pace them out. Kevin's going to come back. Tony's going to come on. Kevin's going to tell stories about, you know, his man Tony, Tony's interactions with John and Angelo. He loved John and Angelo. I think it's all plays. These are people of honor. We're going to, you know, of their own honor. Like I says, I'm not going to justify the life at all to you. I just want you to get the truth and know that you've been misled and duped by a lot of them fucking clowns. I'm not going to name them. You make the judgment yourself. But it's time to know the truth of everyday occurrence and how that life was. So, you know, I have a Patreon channel. All it does, it's not, you know, it's not big. I try to throw clips on there. If you could join my Patreon channel, it helps paying for these productions. I pay for these productions. Ain't nobody giving me a gift. They cost money. This project was such a passion of mine that I wanted to tell it. And it's going to expand out for years. You know, you're going to be, I don't care if there's 20,000 of you, 30,000. If you want to get in, you're going to be involved on it on the ground level. You're going to take part in it. And you want to be part of something great, something, you know, something new, get on board. This is not about, you know, how much money you could put in Mark's or Kevin's pocket. This is going to be bigger than that. You know what I mean? This is something groundbreaking. I want the people to know the truth and of an era and be part of it and go back to that era too, because they missed out on something. The world now is, you know, is what it is, you know. These days, you know, everybody's out for themselves. We're not out for ourselves. We want to build a collective of people who believe in a time and understand what being an underdog is and know they're underdogs and respect underdogs. Not perfect, make mistakes like everybody else. But let's not judge them on the couple of mistakes they make. Let's judge them on a lot of the people they affected in a positive way, no matter what it is. You know, I'm not glorifying anything. But, you know, this Secret Behind the Red Doors is not only my passion project. I took a lot of years jotting down the stories I wanted to tell, only because, and a lot of years, 4 or 5 years, only because it meant something to me. A lot of people were wronging a lot of good guys. And I don't want to talk about, you know, I can sit there and talk about guys who were associates or came around once in a while or sons of friends or something. I don't want to go there. They're not worth the time. I'm going to tell you the true stories with Kevin and Tony, who knows John since the 70s and spent time with him. Well-respected guy, good guy. He's 94. And he loves the concept, what we're doing. I've been hearing results from other people. Love what you're doing. It's about honor and respect, nothing else. It's about personal honor and respect. But these guys want to tell the true stories. So for them guys who took that journey and that oath and believed in something, well, you know what? You didn't believe in nothing, because if you believed in something, you would never done what you did. That's your choice. I can't respect you for that. But whatever it is, I'm not going to name any names. I told you, we're talking about good people. We're talking about honorable people. No dishonorable people on this podcast. So when I come back, this is a show. Kevin will be back here. Hopefully, have Tony aired in too. He'll be on a Zoom. He's 94. We got to take it easy with him. More funny stories about food. Guy asked me, "What is this? A cooking show? What mob movie have you watched since The Godfather? They didn't have tables filled with food. I mean, they even showed in The Godfather, the original one, them guys eating Chinese food, planning to go hit Salazzo. There was all kinds of food. Didn't matter if it was Jewish deli food, Italian food, from the Goodfellas, the casino. It just food surrounded every show event. Sopranos, they were always eating. So why should you not show you what these guys like? Now, I heard some guys try to claim, I know what John's favorite food is. You didn't know what his favorite food is. You didn't know the guy good enough. Stop hearing stories of making up conjecture or just trying to fill time. I told you one of his favorite foods. I could tell you other ones. I could tell you the times he sent me to Billy Hong's. It was on it was off 3rd Avenue. It was a couple blocks away from PJ Clark's, another restaurant I went to. Billy Hong's, great Chinese food in the city, Midtown. And I went there with my wife years ago. I sat at the next table. You know who was sitting there? Sammy Davis Jr., Liza Minnelli, Sinatra with their wives. After a concert, they had that threesome concert. They were eating Billy Hong's. I went over, said hello. Sinatra saw me, got up. How you doing, pal? But there was nothing, but there was all stars. Michael Jackson went to eat there. But the famous thing about Billy Hong's was they made a lobster roll. Now, everybody knows spring rolls, egg rolls. These were lobster rolls, and they had in it was a roll about this big. This wasn't chopped up lobster meat. They had a whole lobster tail they took out of the shell, whatever seasoning, whatever bamboo shoots they put it, and they took the egg roll wrap and they wrapped it around and they deep fried it. And let me tell you something. You've never eaten it. So when you bit into it, they cut it in half, and you bit into it, it was a whole chunk of lobster you never ate anything like it. They were famous for it. When I first had it, we freaked out. When I took my wife there, we were newlyweds. She couldn't believe it. She loved lobster. So first time I found out of the place, Johnny said, listen, you know where Billy Hong's is? He says, yeah, it's a couple blocks away from PJ Clark's. Yeah, he goes, listen, I just ordered a dozen lobster rolls. Now, I remember the lobster rolls were like $16 a piece back time for one. He said, a dozen? He said, yeah. What do you do with a dozen of them? So I want to eat one now. My wife, family, I'm going to eat 3 or 4 of them. And I'm going to put the rest of them in the freezer. Every time I want one, I'm going to take it out. We'll throw them in the toaster, in the oven, bake them, cook them. This is John talking about, we go there and listen, we're going to see the old man in there. Hey, Marcus, is Crazy Johnny sent you. We're crazy. I never see a guy buy so much food, spend so much money. You guys come here. You eat like the end of the world, he says. Everybody eats. They buy chow mein, a little rice. You guys, 4 lobster rolls, 3 shrimp. This. He says, why? He complains. He says, no, love it. Hilarious. Gentlemen, tip everybody, he says. I take the lobster rolls, and he comes out and he brings me one. Here, take this home. He says, from me. I was hooked. But that was John from PJ Clark's to Billy Hong's, a dozen lobster rolls, $200 in lobster rolls. And he'd keep them in the freezer. When he wanted one, he'd pull them out. So those are special. And you bring them to the house, sit down, he says, Mark, let me show you why I order these things. Look at these things, he says. Now that I have, I'm, how we say, financially sound enough to buy these things, I'm going to enjoy them. He says, people don't understand what they're missing out on. The people want to pick at food. I want to eat. And I says, Billy gave me one to go. See? There you go. He says, after you eat it, you're going to be hooked. I'm telling you, I ate there for years till the place closed. But Billy Hong's, classic joint. The lobster rolls, I used to love to make ginger pan fried shrimp, but the lobster roll was their famous. So that was John. John was just take advantage of everything he had at his disposal. Didn't hide, didn't not go out, and you gotta admire the man for living his life his way. We're going to come out with items. You're going to see them. I want you to be part of this. Now, remember, this event we're going to do is not going to be one. It's going to be many. It's the first of many. Nobody's ever seen it before. And if you, I'm telling you, I need to get my subscribers up. I'm going to do whatever I can on my end to get them up. And I'm going to, then one day, when the time comes, all my subscribers, even viewers too, they want to get in. You're going to get a notice. You're going to come in and we're going to have a live feed. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to be part of this programming. When that happens, I promise you, you're going to get addicted. You don't want to be part of this. And you're going to be part of the secret behind the red doors. And it's up to you. I promise you, I'm going to make it exciting for you, fun, and interactive for you. Something never seen. So Kevin will be back next week. He had some family events to go to. He wasn't feeling well today. I want you to say prayers for him. Hope he feels better. Oh, another thing, the wife, no more chemo treatments. So let's, knock on wood. Doctor says she doesn't need them no more. Everything looks good. So we get tests. So thank you for your prayers. I appreciate it. Prayers to you. Anybody who's got somebody who needs a prayer, I hope God shines their light on him. I'm not a religious guy, but I'm born Catholic, so you got to say the right thing. But you guys out there, let's keep the focus on the red doors, the Bergen, and let's stay positive. I'm gonna get you involved in something good. So we'll talk soon. Enjoy the show, and look out for my shorts. They'll be up there too. I got some special shorts I'm going to talk to you about. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy your week and be safe always. Take care.